Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, somebody opened fire near an event that Katie Wilson was having. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Today, there's a bunch of stuff going on locally, which has implications nationally, but not for the reasons you think. Right now, Nick Freitas is out at University of Washington. For those of you who don't know, he's a conservative commentator. He's out there for Turning Point USA, and he is doing a Pick Up the Mic event. Pick Up the Mic events are the ones that they are doing to honor Charlie Kirk, where different personalities will go out to different college campuses like Charlie used to and answer whatever questions you want. And I saw that online, the far left activists are losing their minds, absolutely losing their minds. Why? Because Turning Point USA brought out security, has a massive fence around it so you can't get too close to the tent itself. You can still ask questions. There's still a microphone. It's still the usual setup. You used to see with Charlie Kirk all the time. But one activist spat at the guy. That's technically assault. And others were doing other things that were a no-go. So what happens? UW had the police there. Campus police were there. And they started making arrests. And the activist lunatics are losing their minds because they are so used to doing whatever they want. Last week, you might remember, we had former Miss Israel and IDF medic Noah Kochba here in studio because, unfortunately, it was too dangerous for her to go to the University of Washington campus because a whole bunch of these lunatics showed up, and they were waving Hamas flags, and they were waving Hezbollah flags, PFLP flags, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, all designated U.S. terror groups. U.S. designated terror groups, every single one of them. And they were waving them on campus, and they were trying to target her. This was right after, the day after, there was an event where these same activists violently targeted a Jewish fundraiser in downtown Seattle. And they were so mad that 3 people were arrested, even though they vandalized the building, even though they hit people's cars, even though they blocked entrances, even though they assaulted people and were throwing fake blood everywhere. So mad that they were actually being held accountable. Too bad King County prosecutors and the Seattle City Attorney haven't actually filed charges yet. I don't know what they're waiting for. I gave them all my video. There's no excuse not to file charges at this point. But the activists are so used to doing what they want and nobody calling them out for it that they think they can do whatever they want all the time. Well, now things are starting to change a little bit. Where now, a little bit, people are saying, no, this is too far. No, this is the line you can't cross, because University of Washington has realized if they don't do that, what happens is the Trump administration comes down on them like a ton of bricks. But in addition to that, they also lose donors. They also probably have seen their enrollment go down because people don't want to go to a psycho house for college. They want to have the college experience. Either they actually want to learn something to do well in life, or they want to have the Greek experience and party all the time, or whatever the case may be. But they don't want to deal with this activist garbage all the time, the majority of students. I heard a quote today that Adam Smith was talking about. Adam Smith, Democrat congressman from right here in Washington, and he was being interviewed by Jake Tapper over on CNN. This disappointed me more than you realize. I'll explain after you listen to it.
I want to get your perspective and opinion on what's going on right now. We've heard two announcements today. One, the FCC putting pressure on Disney and ABC stations. This is in the wake of President Trump and First Lady Trump calling on ABC and Disney to fire Jimmy Kimmel for a joke he made 2 days before the assassination attempt. And the other is the indictment of James Comey for putting the Instagram photo image of shells in the shape of 8647. What are your takes on these two developments?
Well, look, Trump is running this country like an authoritarian dictator, not like a democratically elected president of a constitutional republic.
Stop. Don't tell me it's just the right that's violent, or this is a both sides issue, or we have to be more civil to each other. I know Adam Smith. I've met Adam Smith. I've spoken to Adam Smith. I've had him on the show a bunch of times. I've been at events with Adam Smith. I have helped Adam Smith against psychos who challenged him because he was the more moderate voice. But if you look at his posts on social media, he is running against Shama Sawant, the Marxist from Seattle, who is on the Seattle City Council, that a lot of the problems we have right now can be traced right back to her. Economic, social, violent, you name it, can be traced back to her. So rather than him saying, I'm going to embrace common sense, he is embracing what he thinks the far left activists want him to do, because he thinks that's what he has to worry about going into this election. What he actually has to worry about is people like me. Because it used to be I could hold my nose and vote for a Democrat because he's running against Kshama Sawant and be fine with that. Really, be perfectly fine with that. But I can't do it anymore. Because it used to be he would take more moderate positions. It used to be that it wasn't lockstep. We hate the president. We hate this. We hate that. Republicans are enough. Enough. There was a hearing today on Capitol Hill with him and Pete Hegseth. We'll play later in the show for you, where basically now he's like, we shouldn't have gone to war with Iran. And this is a guy who is head of the Foreign Armed Services Committee, the House Armed Services Committee. This is the guy who knows what's going on. He sees the intelligence reports, and yet he decides to make a political spectacle out of it. Now, a lot of you may say he's just worried about losing their votes. No, he's worried about something else. He's worried about them also. And this, I believe, goes for many of the Democrats. If you step out of line the tiniest little bit with these radical activists, they go bananas. Absolutely bananas. You want an example? Representative Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez from Southern Washington, our friend John Braun, Senator John Braun from Washington, is running against her. She posted this because she knows she's in a purple district, and she knows she's running against John Braun, and she knows that she has to sound normal because she's a bit of a wackadoodle to try and get moderate votes. So she's embracing the right, even though she's a Democrat. She wrote this: "Thank you so much to the Clark County Sheriff's Office for taking me out for a ride-along. It's an honor to get a chance to see what you're up against firsthand. In D.C., I'm working to provide tax relief on the first $100,000 of federal income tax for law enforcement. We need to think creatively about how to support law enforcement and first responder health and wellness." The activists went nuts, lost their minds. I'm surprised they haven't burned her in effigy yet, because she suggested, wait for it, tax credits for first responders after going out on a ride-along with them and seeing what they're up against. And now she's probably worried that she's losing the left, but she's probably done some math and said it makes more sense to embrace the right, or she just says this is the right thing to do. I assume it's the former, not the latter. Adam Smith has done the calculations. It makes more sense to embrace the left. But they also have to worry about these guys coming after them. Do you remember during the summer of love, the summer of 2020, that you had these hardcore leftist activists showing up at people's houses, didn't matter if they were Republican, Democrat, urging them to defund the police? It was happening here in Seattle. They weren't just showing up at Mike Solin's house, who was then the president of the Seattle Police Officers Guild because they hated cops. They were showing up at Tammy Morales' house and Teresa Mosqueda's house, two people who are far left activists who happen to get elected to office. They were showing up there to intimidate them, to threaten them. If you don't do what we want, every single thing that we want, you're the enemy. Well, I found out today that apparently for the past few months, activists have been showing up at Adam Smith's house on a regular basis. Now, we know that right after October 7th, they vandalized his house. And we know they've actually targeted him several times in the past, targeted his town halls, targeted a few other events, because he said, no, we need to support Israel in the aftermath of October 7th. We know this. But apparently now, Kshama Sawant and her crazy band of lunatics have been showing up at his house night after night after night. And rather than saying, these are the lunatics, I should be embracing the normal people and showcasing what the lunatics are doing. Instead, what he's doing is he's using the lunatic talking points, thinking that's going to appease them. You can never appease the mob. You can't. You just can't do it. Can't be done. Maybe if you're online a little too much, you might remember the name Hannah Krieg. Hannah Krieg, her and somebody named Ashley Nurbovig. Do you remember both of them?
Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
The two of them used to be reporters for The Stranger, Seattle's far-left activist blog. One of them got suspended, Ashley Nurbovig, because after the assassination attempt on President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, she posted on social media, "Make America Aim Again." Hannah Krieg posted something similar. They both got suspended. Turns out they both got fired later from The Stranger. It takes a lot to get fired from The Stranger. They both got fired from The Stranger for other stuff. It's not entirely clear, but they both got fired from The Stranger. Now they run some outlet called The Burner, which is just whatever the far left is thinking, whatever it is, that's what they're going to go with. So they are trying to make fetch happen. They are trying to make something a thing. The event I spoke about, the Jewish fundraiser in downtown Seattle, which was targeted by over 75 activists, violently targeted, with vandalism, with assault, you name it, they did all that stuff. At one point, the Seattle police came out in riot gear and took care of business. And then a few of these fools started throwing punches, and the Seattle police arrested 3 of them. The Burner, however, writes this as a headline. SPD appeared to use banned knee-on-neck restraint at protest. Now community and elected officials want accountability. Now, what they are mad about is in one of their videos, it appears like a police officer is kneeling on the neck of one of the people they're arresting. I was there. I saw it. Better than that, I took video of it. And you can clearly see they are not doing that at all. But these activists are trying to make a controversy out of nowhere. So now they've got King County Council member Teresa Mosqueda, who's basically an Antifa member who holds office, supporting them. Bothell City Council member Rami Al-Kabra, who wears a Hamas keffiyeh because he was scuffling with Israelis on October 7th when the bodies weren't even cool yet. They've got Yasmin Trudeau, another pro-Hamas supporter, Daria Farver, one who supports the Ayatollah, and others signing on to this stupidity, even though there is video out there showing this is not what happened at all. Why? Because they're claiming Israel taught them the procedure, and that's what they're doing. For these activists, they want their way no matter what it takes. They will lie, they will target, they will threaten. Sometimes some of these activists will even kill. We've seen it, or attempt to kill. I am tired of hearing that the violence is a both sides issue. It is not a both sides issue. It is clearly a left issue. Our friend Batya Ungar-Sargon, who now has her own show over on News Nation, was actually explaining this the other night from the studies that the left uses to claim it's a both side issue. Now, the Daily Wire also had a great write-up on this, completely debunking this ridiculous narrative that's a both sides issue. No, it's overwhelmingly on the right. But if you paint the numbers a certain way, you can make it almost appear like it's a both sides issue.
Geraldo brought up this idea that the left and the right are equal when it comes to calls for violence or acts of violence. You have done an amazing job of digging through the data, and what did you find?
All right, so Geraldo, see if you find this compelling,
Okay.
all right? So it seems to me that there are 3 main sources that you hear a lot from the mainstream media that allegedly prove that the problem we have right now of political violence is a both sides problem. There's the Cato Institute, there's the Prosecution Project out of the University of Cincinnati, and then there's the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Now, these are all always shared by the likes of The Economist, the Wall Street Journal today shared Center for Strategic and International Studies. The problem is when you dig down into that data, it is so deeply flawed. Let me just give you a few examples, okay? The Prosecution Project, supposed to list all of the acts of political violence in America, does not list Charlie Kirk's assassination, does not list Trump's assassination attempts, does not list any George Floyd violence. 24 Americans lost their lives during those riots, not listed. But every white nationalist who's a drug dealer, that gets listed. So they list 33 white Aryan Nation people who had a meth lab. This is political violence because they happen to be white nationalists. All right, Cato does not list the 9/11 victims, does not list any George Floyd violence. Center for Strategic and International Studies, where does it get its data from? The ADL, highly partisan, and the Southern, which just was revealed to have allegedly been funding the very racists that they were supposed to be fighting. And finally, I just have to mention this, the Center for Strategic and International Studies has in its methodology section, it says all anti-Semitism is right-wing. Any attacks on Jews or Jewish institutions, they reclassified it. If it was in the name of Palestinians, they reclassified it as ethno-nationalist. So by their definition, there's no such thing as left-wing anti-Semitism, which we all know is just nonsense. This is the data. It is flawed. Shame on the Wall Street Journal and shame on The Economist because they're giving a flawed view. And I totally agree with Katie. We can't, it would be so nice to say, kumbaya, we all share the problem. You cannot fix a problem if you are lying about what it is.
Botcha's exactly right. Botcha is exactly right. I looked at the data myself. None of them include the violence from 2020. None of them include Antifa. None of them include the Hamasniks that have been rioting for the last 3 years. They count it as right-wing if they count it at all. Do you remember during 2020, it was all the Proud Boys, the Patriot Front, the whatever. Yeah, I never saw those guys. I'm not saying they weren't around. But you know what I did see with my own two eyes? BLM and Antifa taking over 6 blocks of Seattle. You know what? I did see a whole bunch of people in Hamas kafiyas blocking I-5, shutting down University of Washington's quad, taking the whole thing over, but all that is glossed over and not included. You cannot say it is a both sides problem. Are there extremists on the right? Absolutely there are. But the data is completely flawed because it does not support that it is an equal problem. And I wish the Democrats would come out and actually admit, like somebody like Adam Smith, say the activists are coming to my house every night and they are not in line with me, and stop repeating their talking points. That's it. Not too long ago, Senator Jesse Solomon from right here in Washington was telling me he was being, quote unquote, threatened by the Democrats. He's a Democrat, threatened by the Democrats. And I said, what does that mean? Does that mean physical violence? Or they're going to run somebody against you, let's go public. And he said, no, I can't. Well, he never said it was off record, so I can. Right? I can talk about that. So what are they threatening you with? The extremists in the legislature. What, they're going to primary you if you don't vote with them? We saw case after case after case that there were Democrats this legislative session in Olympia who wanted to vote the different way on a certain issue. All of a sudden, the Democrats would call an executive session, take everybody outside, they would come back in, and the one who disagreed looked really sad or disappointed or scared and then voted the way they wanted them to vote. This is the left. We will intimidate you if we don't get exactly what we want. And I don't feel bad for the moderates who are being intimidated. I think they're actually cowards. Because you should be standing up and saying, this is what they're doing. I disagree with it. Adam Smith should be saying, they're coming to my house every single night because I support Israel. Kshama Sawant has her merry band of lunatics coming to my house every single night. It would be front page news of every outlet around here because everybody hates Kshama Sawant. And they'd be saying, this is the tactics you do? Not discussing issues, not having debates. You're sending your stormtroopers to the guy's house and he's a lefty Democrat? And you're sending them to his house? Don't tell me it's a both sides issue. I am tired of hearing it. The data they use to claim that is very deeply flawed. And yet that's what they keep claiming. They threaten their own if they step out of line, which is exactly what we're seeing with Adam Smith. They're now mad at the University of Washington, which caved to every single demand they had. Every single one. Because one teacher used their listserv inappropriately, and because he happens to be on their side, they're mad and claiming it's Ari Hoffman's fault because you spoke to Ari Hoffman. These guys, if you step out of line the slightest bit, they come gunning for you. And that's what's happening right now. The other thing that's happening right now is the feds are saying we're not going to put up with this anymore. And so the left says, okay, well, if we can't go after the right as much as we used to because the feds might arrest us, or we can't break the law, we can go after our own because we can scare them, we can intimidate them. Is there going to be a single Democrat out there who is brave enough to stand up and say, these lunatics do not represent me? The only one I've ever seen is John Fetterman, the guy with the brain injury. He's the only one. These guys do not represent me, and here's what they're doing. They're targeting my house. They're targeting my business. They're targeting my family. Why are they too afraid to even say that? And if they did, they might even pick up some votes on the right. But instead, they're going to keep cowering behind the left, thinking that's the path to success, especially in blue states like Washington. It's pathetic. It's sad. I don't feel bad for them. It's just pathetic and sad. Speaking of pathetic and sad, Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson had an event yesterday. Somebody opened fire nearby, and the anti-police activist had to use her security to get out of there. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show. Last night, somebody opened fire near the Yesler Community Center where Katie Wilson was having an event. Police are now investigating. She was attending an event with children and adults. Immediately, people start thinking, was she a target? No, it just seems like she's just a nearby another Seattle crime. Seattle Police Department said officers received reports of multiple people shooting near the Yesler Terrace Community Center. Around 5:30 p.m., the building was damaged, but no injuries were reported. Witnesses told police that 3 to 4 suspects fled the area in a dark-colored sedan. Detectives with the department's gun violence reduction unit and crime scene investigators responded to the scene to collect evidence and interview witnesses. Seattle Police Chief Sean Barnes said this shooting reminds us that violence has no place in our community. I hate that sentence. Clearly it does. Clearly it is part of the fabric of your community because it happened near where the mayor was. Our neighbors have the right to gather, speak, and celebrate without the fear of violence. Great, so when are you going to fix that? Addressing gun violence. There you go. There's the problem. It's not gun violence. It's just violence. For example, today, 2 people were stabbed. 2 Jews were stabbed in the UK, in London, near Golders Green. Are we going to say, oh, it was the knife's fault? No, it was the terrorist who was holding the knife. Why do you have to do that? Why is it all about the gun? Addressing gun violence requires us to take a whole of Seattle approach that includes the criminal justice system. Well, what does that mean? You mean you actually want people to stay in jail? Or you think we need to reform jail to turn people loose? I don't know. You're so woke, I can't keep track. This is a nothing burger. This is a vanilla, empty statement. We must work together to do more to protect each other. You're the police chief. You know what your statement should be? We are increasing patrols in that area. We are recruiting more police officers. If you commit a crime like this, you are going to see the inside of a jail cell for a very long time. But unfortunately, we've got a wuss instead of a police chief. Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson, the one who has been advocating her entire career to defund the police, to abolish the police, wrote this. Shortly following my announcement of new investments in Seattle's children and families today, we heard gunfire. No one was injured, but it was a stark reminder of a reality too many people in this city live with every day. Okay, fine. I'm okay with that so far. We cannot let this become normal. Too late. Too late. Didn't we have record homicides a couple of years ago? We must invest in this opportunity and must continue working to keep people safe. Today's announcement was about making those necessary Wait, today's announcement? No. Do you know what she spoke about today? Today, she said, we're giving free lunch meals to all kids in school. Wait a minute. The federal government already pays for 75% of lunches. The other 25% are the kids who don't qualify for that kind of aid because they're too wealthy. The Washington legislature voted this session to give them the school lunches. Congratulations. You paid for the upper class to have free lunches, guys. Well done. With our tax money. So you did that. So you're taking credit for something you had nothing to do with? Or is it that you're saying we're going to spend all this money on something that's already paid for and you're actually spending it somewhere else? Nothing has anything to do with police. She adds, in the weeks ahead, I'll share more about our comprehensive strategy to address gun violence in public. Here we go. Anywhere in there, does she thank her police security guards for escorting her away? At any point, does she say, our police, we're going to step up patrols or we're going to arrest more people? No, because she doesn't believe it. Because she doesn't believe it at all. You know how you fight crime? By fighting crime. Unless you're a Decepticon named Megatron, you're not a gun that fires itself. Somebody is holding that gun. We release prolific offenders on a regular basis. We don't do anything about prolific offenders. Our justice system is a revolving door. You can't recruit police officers because nobody wants to be a member of this woke police department. You literally have the police department investigating ICE rather than investigating criminals. You're spending money, put up virtue signaling signs in parks that say ICE is not allowed to stage there, rather than actually spending that money on, police officers to enforce the law, helping ICE get criminals out of our community. Yeah, the sign's really going to stop people. It'll be just as effective as those gun-free zone signs, right? This is the city we live in. And she can't even bring herself to thank the police officers who are part of her security detail that go with her everywhere. can't even keep it in the statement. It's tragic that there was gunfire nearby. It is absolutely tragic that there is gunfire nearby. It is horrible that there is gunfire nearby. So why don't you say we're actually going to address the crime? Because the gun didn't shoot itself. This sounds like an everyday drive-by, which unfortunately happens here with far too much regularity. Why don't you talk about the gang violence units? Why don't you say we're going to refund the gang violence units, or we're going to start doing more gang violence prevention? We're going to start being in the schools and in the community and in all these places. We're going to have cops at every community center, because that's not what she wants. She figures by giving more of the money to the community, things will naturally get better. We're just doubling down on the failed experiments of 2020. Speaking of failed experiments, looks like the UK has learned the hard way that here's how your empire can collapse. And I'm really, really tired of everybody talking about how great King Charles was when he was here. I don't want to be lectured by a British monarch about climate change and national security. We'll have all that for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I have never understood the obsession with the monarchy. I just don't get it. I mean, my wife loves The Crown. She loves watching royal weddings or whatever else it is when it happens. She knows all the hot goss. I assume a lot of people out in our audience are saying, yeah, my wife does the same thing, or my mom does the same thing, or whatever, right?
I can't stand the stuff either.
No.
I cannot stand it.
Didn't we have a revolution so we wouldn't have to care about the crown anymore, about the monarchy anymore? Okay, so King Charles comes to town. It's very nice that we rolled out the red carpet and we're very welcoming to a guy with no power in England whatsoever. No power at all. And, okay, fine, let him address Congress. He feels good about himself. But this is a guy who is basically an empty crown. He has no power whatsoever. He basically lives off the public dime, getting to do whatever he wants, and he's not that good of a person. Now, there were some funny moments. There were some funny digs, all in good humor, between President Trump and the king. This moment in particular, I kind of like this one, which President Trump said.
This is a great honor, and we welcome Their Majesties King Charles III and Queen Camilla of the United Kingdom to the White House. Very special place, very, very special. And I also want to, before we really begin, I want to congratulate Charles on having made a fantastic speech today at Congress. He got the Democrats to stand. I've never been able to do that. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. They liked him more than they've ever liked any Republican or Democrat, actually.
Now, that was fascinating to me. The Democrats are all standing up and cheering the King of England. What happened to no kings? What happened to the no kings thing? That just goes right out the window. Oh, because he's talking about things that we like? Here's a perfect example. This is somebody who has spoken at every no kings protest there is in Seattle because they keep timing them for when Congress is on session, out of session, so the Democrats can go back to their home districts and speak at these events. Who was it? Squad member Pramila Jayapal, the representative of Gaza, talking about how much she loves the king.
He took some shots at him, I think. The line that I appreciated the most was about the executive and the checks and balances. I mean, you heard the raucous yelling in the chamber for that, but he had some others. I mean, he didn't use the words climate change. He was very careful, but he talked about the environment. He talked about Ukraine. That was a very direct appeal. And so I think he could have done what he did with Trump with the survivors. He could have had a one-on-one meeting, and he could have essentially expressed that. Okay, enough. But she's all excited about the king. She's all happy because the king is now talking about her talking points. Well, what were these talking points? It was about climate change and about Ukraine. So let me make sure I got this right. We need to be lectured by the King of England, who has no power whatsoever, none at all, is basically just a freeloader off the British taxpayer. Oh, he's a Democrat. Oh, he's somebody on welfare. Very nice welfare, don't get me wrong, but that's what he is. So we have to listen to him lecture us on how England destroyed their entire economy because of onerous regulations to combat climate change, that now 76% of their energy comes from elsewhere. We need them to lecture us on Ukraine because they have done so little to build up their military, reinforce their military, that anytime something happens over there, they need to call us. They need to call us to come help them. This is who we need to be lectured by? What were his great words that Pramila Jayapal was so excited by?
So as we look toward the next 250 years, we must also reflect on our shared responsibility to safeguard nature, our most precious and irreplaceable asset.
Okay, let me tell you something. The majority of their energy is still fossil fuels. It's over like 80% is still fossil fuels. As much as they talk about climate change, they've done almost nothing whatsoever to do more green technologies. They are still reliant on all of that. So you can talk about climate change all you want, dude, but I don't want to be lectured by a king whose country's economy isn't doing very well because of these onerous regulations that have actually impeded your energy development, including your green energy development. And then you're going to lecture us about Ukraine?
We answered the call together, as our people have done so for more than a century, shoulder to shoulder, through 2 world wars, the Cold War, Afghanistan, and moments that have defined our shared security. Today, Mr. Speaker, that same unyielding resolve is needed for the defense of Ukraine and her most courageous people.
So how much are you guys going to kick in towards that? Your economy's not doing well. How many soldiers are you guys going to kick in towards that? It's happening on Europe. It's not happening over here. I agree. Putin needs to be stopped. I agree. The war should end. But why is the U.S. paying for everything? This isn't World War II, where we were true partners, even though we were definitely giving more than they were because we had better resources in the aftermath of World War I. So what are you guys actually doing about this, or is it just America, come help us? America, come help us. Yeah, I'm kind of tired of the monarchs. The monarchs, the King of England, it's so 1775. And really, we're going to be lectured by this guy? Were there some great zingers? Yes. Was it nice to see everybody getting along? Absolutely. Were there some great moments? Yes. But make no mistake about it, the reason the Democrats like this guy so much is because he was here to push their agenda. Oh, what do you know? A guy on welfare coming to push the Democrat agenda, as if we didn't have enough of that in our country already. Now, mind you, as much as I'm ripping into the left right now, the right is about to get my wrath. When we come back, do you really think it was the best idea to indict James Comey? We'll discuss. We'll talk about it when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Let me be perfectly clear. I think James Comey is one of the dumbest people that has ever served in the FBI, and that's a pretty high bar to clear. I think that he was incompetent. I think he was terrible at his job. But just because you're stupid doesn't mean you should get indicted. And I really think that the Trump administration is wasting their time, not really making any friends, when they could be doing more important things by indicting former FBI Director James Comey. Look, I believe he had a hand in making our republic as divided as it is. What do I mean by that? When he chose not to indict Hillary Clinton, even though he said she broke the law, but chose not to indict her, I think right there you gave carte blanche for politicians to get away with whatever they wanted, depending on who their political friends were in office, as if it wasn't happening before. But I think you set the stage for that. You set the stage for Trump to be exonerated from everything that the Democrats accused him of, and then Joe Biden, and then anybody else. You set the stage for that by not holding Hillary Clinton accountable. I can think of very few people that have done more to jeopardize our legal system at a federal level than James Comey. However, being a moron is not indictable. Now, the old phrase is that a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich. Because you give it to a grand jury, they just assume you're guilty, and all right, let's do charges because it doesn't really matter. What did James Comey actually do? He took seashells on a beach and made them say 8647. 86 is, of course, the restaurant term, meaning that's the last item on the menu. Get rid of it. 86 that thing. We don't want it anymore. 47 meaning the 47th president of the United States. Some people have taken 86 to be a direct threat of kill or eliminate. You gotta want that from James Comey. You gotta really want that from this point of the seashells on the beach. He's a moron. I don't like him. I have a very low opinion of James Comey. But indicting him over this, because here's the thing, guys. Let's say you disagree with me. Let's say you think 1,000% he should be indicted for this. Takes one juror, one, who thinks like I do that this is stupid and this guy shouldn't go to jail, and your whole case goes down the toilet. And then you know what James Comey gets to do the rest of his life? I fought Trump and I won. I fought the law and the law won. He gets to do that the rest of his life when this case is not successful. That's my problem with this. Like I said, I think he's a slime bucket. I think he's a slime ball. I don't like him at all. But if being a moron was indictable, we'll start with AOC, and then we'll go to everybody else in the squad. Unfortunately, it's not.
Yeah, this gets dangerous that you start doing things for things like this, right?
Yeah.
Like, and this is what kills me. I heard Lars talking about this earlier too. I'm sorry, you really got to fudge to make this one work. When I first heard it and someone was explaining to me what 86 means, I'm like, look, I know it as he got 86'd from the bar.
Yes.
That didn't mean he got killed. It meant they kicked him out of the bar. He was 86'd. The guy wrote it in seashells.
Now, mind you,
and that, by the way, it's dumb too.
Stupid.
It is so stupid what he put out there. Like, look at this idea I had. I'm going to make seashells say 8647. Isn't this clever? I'm going to put it on social media. No, that's not clever. That's stupid.
Here's how stupid he is. Some activists mean it, and they mean the 8647, and we've seen it. They were chanting it. They were doing it during the No Kings protests in June, and they meant it. But James Comey thinks like we do probably in terms of the 86. It just means get rid of. He probably had no idea and you have to prove intent. You have to prove motive. You have to prove intent. And you have to prove he really wanted to kill the president of the United States. You don't have a case. You don't. This is about getting even. And you know what I noticed? A lot of people at University of Washington haven't been prosecuted for what they've done, and we're talking about real stuff. The feds could be going after real people who've committed real crimes. And don't get me wrong, James Comey, probably corrupt, incompetent is all giddy up, as they used to say. But calling for the death of the president of the United States, no, I think he's too stupid. I think he was too stupid to know that that even meant a death threat. I think he is that dumb. Let me know what you think. You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Because if dumb was indictable, there'd be a whole lot more people behind bars and definitely a lot less people in the media industry. I will say that from firsthand experience. When we come back, my friends, speaking of dumb people, Turd Ferguson tried to get Starbucks to stay and failed in a massive way. We'll have that for you when we come back, plus your calls and your texts. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, an illegal alien trucker kills newlyweds and Oregon still released them. But before we get to any of that, my audience has turned on me. The text line has turned on me. They all think that Comey should be indicted. In fact, Rick here used an expletive when I called Comey a moron. He said, "Takes one to know one, you blanking idiot." Wait, you talking about me? You talking about Comey? People are really upset that I actually took the other side on the Comey thing. Guys, I'm looking at this from a legal standpoint. And since a lot of you said the same thing, let me address this one here, okay? Russian collusion. He wasn't indicted for making up Russian collusion. He was indicted for threatening the life of the president. And you know what? I don't think anybody should threaten the life of a president. I really don't. James Comey spelling it out in seashells, I don't think clears the bar. I just don't. People say dumb things all the time. If I say to Kevin, "I'm so mad at you, I could kill you," is that technically a death threat?
Yeah, well, or the term "kill me now."
Or like, there you go, kill me now. Yeah, right?
No.
Great.
God, what are we doing here?
But here's the thing, guys. You want to indict him for Russian collusion, for faking the whole thing, for lying to the American public, all that, hit him with it. For those of you that are saying, and multiples of you are saying the same thing on the text line, for those of you that say, "Oh, they got more," they'll charge him with the rest. Then charge him with the rest now, and don't waste your time on this. Because if you charge with something you can't convict on, you're giving him the ammo. And no, Robin Lakewood, you can't just ask Comey about Russian collusion at the trial for trying to kill the president, because a bad lawyer will say that has no bearing on this case, object to it, and it gets thrown out. If you want to charge him for Russian collusion, nonsense, Russiagate, all that, then go ahead and charge him for that. It takes one juror, just one juror, and this whole thing is out the window. This whole thing is gone, and that's that. And that's the problem you have. And that's where you don't want to be. You don't want to be in a place where now you're losing to James Comey. You have him dead to rights on other things. You do have that. But for some reason, they decide to go with this instead. Okay, guys, I need some convincing. And I read all the indictment. I read all the documents looking for a there. This is going to be almost impossible to convict on. Maybe they just won the indictment. Maybe they just want to smear. Maybe they just want to get even. Maybe they just want to get mad. Fine. But I'll tell you guys, this isn't the way to do it. This isn't the way to do it. Jeff in Kent says what I say. Comey was trying to be hip and woke, and it landed flat. Let him and Kimmel fade into the sunset. Exactly. This one here from the 360. Comey is pretty dumb, but I think there are a lot more things to investigate than dumb seashells on a beach. Yes. Sylvia says, "Ari, you lost me at he's probably corrupt." Probably? Okay, Sylvia, then charge him for corruption. If we actually have all this stuff on him, go after him for all of that. And those of you who say the statute of limitations run out, they're different charges. That's not how statute of limitations work. If you want to charge him on the Russia stuff, go after him on the Russia stuff. This one here, Jay wants me to discuss the James Comey topic with Lars the next time he's on my show. Well, guess what? He's going to be on Friday. Lars and I can have it out over this. I didn't hear what Lars said today about this. Was he all in on charging James Comey? Look, if you said to me, you're charging James Comey for lying to the American public and dereliction of duty and Russia and the steel and all that, I am on your side, 1,000%. I just think this is a loser.
This sort of stuff like this when it comes to law.
Yeah.
It just comes down to, do you want to waste time and money on something like this?
Exactly.
Because it's not going to stick. And Trump is kind of notorious for this. He took Bill Maher to court for calling him an orangutan, calling his mother an orangutan, I think is what it was. Guess what? He didn't win.
Right. Yeah. This is that again.
He spent a bunch of money, but I guess I'm sure he had to pay back the lawyer fees for Bill Maher.
Yeah.
But like, what is the point on stuff like this? It's a waste of time. Get something substantial that will stick.
Exactly.
If you can't do that, then why are you doing something like this?
Ed, according to the text line, there's a whole bunch of stuff that'll stick. Hey, I'd like to see certain things investigated as well. I really, really would. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from George in Kenmore. George, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, remember, this went through the grand jury put this out. So
a grand jury will indict anything. That doesn't mean anything.
No,
a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich. That's the old phrase, George. Just because a grand jury did it. If it was a federal indictment, I'd be more impressed.
Well, the grand jury, at least, and it's Jeanine Pirro, and that's probably not in our favor in Washington, D.C. courts. But bottom line is, let him spend all his money. I'm sure he's not defending himself.
Okay, so if you say you just want to bankrupt him, the problem is, George, is that if he wins, he can go after court fees. He can get those paid back to him. Now, you and I, as the taxpayer, are on the hook for that. I hear what you're saying. Look, we all hate James Comey, but I think you got a better case against Madonna, who threatened to blow up the White House. I think you got a better case against Johnny Depp, who said, can anybody remember the last time an actor killed the president? I think you got a better case against either of them, which I don't think you should be prosecuting Madonna or Johnny Depp. And I don't even know if Johnny Depp's still a U.S. citizen. I think he moved to France for a reason. But I'll say this. Yeah, French. Go stay with the French. That's fine. Okay, I think you got a better case against both of them than you have against James Comey. If you want to go after him for Russia collusion, go after him for that. Appreciate the call, George. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Everybody's turning on me today. I'm under siege. Scott from University Place. Go ahead, man.
Well, Ari, I like you, and I don't really want to disagree with you on this, but you're incorrect. The government didn't indict him. A grand jury did. So that's the case here.
That's what I said. That's what I said. Yeah. But who brings the charges to the grand jury? Scott, who brings the
Well, the government brings it, so grand juries looked at it. And Comey's held to a higher standard than you and I are. So, it's not like it's just some dummy on a beach doing this. Comey ought to know better to do something like this. So it's not just some idiot on a beach doing this. It's Comey. He knows what this looks like.
Well, hang on. Can we find a point of agreement here, Scott? One point of agreement. Can we both agree he's an idiot on a beach?
He is an idiot on a beach. He's an idiot on the beach who ought to be held to a little bit higher standard.
Okay.
So but we do agree on one thing. He ought to just go away. So so there is a point that I agree with. It would be better to go at him for bigger and better things. I do agree with you in that case.
Okay, so then Scott, here's my thing. Here's my thing. Did we get OJ on murder of his wife?
No, we did not.
What did we do instead? What did we get him on instead? Right? Did we get for stealing sports memorabilia using a gun? How did we get Al Capone? Did we get Al Capone for murder and all the mafia stuff? How did we get Al Capone?
Tax evasion.
Tax evasion. So you're not going to get him on this. What you are going to get him on is, I believe, all the Russia stuff. So if everybody wants Comey's head on a platter, I just threatened James Comey. If everybody wants James Comey's head, then go after him for all that, right, Scott?
I'm not so certain.
Yeah.
If we get him on, we got him indicted. I think if people. I think there's enough fatigue with James Comey. We might get him on this. I truly do.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, Scott. I will tell you what. If they get him on this and he's actually convicted, I will let you call back the show. We'll put you at the front of the line along with everybody else who disagrees with me. And you get to go, nana, nana, poo, poo. I was right and you were wrong, Ari. And we'll have a whole show where everybody just gets to call in and say they were right and I was wrong. How does that sound?
Well, I don't need to do that. But anyway, like I said, I just think there's enough unhappiness with. I think the guy's turning on a lot of this stuff. So, and I think that, like I said, I was actually stunned that a grand jury would go this way, because we've seen enough things where in D.C. where it's gone the wrong way, and now we've seen when it's gone the proper way. So
Exactly.
We'll see.
Exactly. All right, Scott.
Cool.
Appreciate the call.
Have a great evening in the sun.
Yeah, all right. Yes, indeed. Thank God the sun's finally out. Appreciate the call. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Ben in SeaTac. Ben, what's up, man?
Harry, well, I support the prosecution because I want to try to bankrupt this guy, make him go through the fire. Maybe he'll win and get his money back, like you said before. But they went after our people, actually hurt our people. A lot of our people did have to get second mortgages. Manafort did jail for a bunch of BS for the tax evasion, even though it was not even part of the investigation. And I think this is a start. Actually, I just hope that I wish you'd actually prosecute sanctuary city and state politicians, because I think that actually is a major violation of law. Harboring, encouraging illegal entry in the United States is a felony.
So I'll tell you this, Ben, is that if you say you just want to bankrupt the guy, right? You just want to bankrupt him. I hear that. Believe me, I do, because that's what they did to a lot of people in the Trump administration. And if that's the argument, then fine, I get it. But you know what I would rather see? Don't you want him bankrupted and in jail? And for me, it's that, can this one stick? Well, somebody thinks they can make it stick. It's really hard to prove intent. It's really hard to prove intent in this case. It really, really is with the seashells. But that's why I say, if you want to go, you have a much stronger case with the Russia and everything else. And personally, for me, I would have indicted him on all that and then thrown this in as a sweetener, because the jury likes to drop a couple charges and then they'll drop the seashell thing, but you'll get him on everything else. I think that would have been a better way to go. How about you? What do you say to that?
Well, it's a great idea. I just think the bottom line is this: if we don't do anything to these Democrats, they're going to, if they ever get power again, they're going to ramp it up. We have to have their attorney generals be scared. Hey, I don't want to go to prison for 30 years if the Republicans ever get charged. So I'm sorry, President, whatever, Democrat, I'm not going to put those charges out there because I don't want them coming after me when it's their turn, if it's their turn. This is the only way we could stop this, is that we have to put some of these people in jail.
Yeah,
and
I hear what you're saying, because now you do realize that if President Trump had lost that election, he'd probably be in jail right now. If he had lost the election, not because he deserved it, but because that's how desperate the Democrats were to put him there, and that's what they would have tried to do, which is insane. Other members of Steve Bannon, I got no love for Steve Bannon. They sent him to jail. They sent him to jail for contempt of Congress. They didn't do it with Hunter Biden. They didn't do it with a lot of other people. They didn't do it with Hillary Clinton. They didn't do it with Bill Clinton. They didn't do it with any of them. There is a double standard. And Ben, if you are saying that you want the double standard exposed and you want Republicans to stand up for themselves, then I yield the point to you, because that point I hear. I just wish we had done the Russia stuff, because then we could have gotten him bankrupt and in jail. Ben, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This one from the 386. I agree with you. Use Kathy Griffin as an example, holding Donald Trump's head. Look, her career's over. Have you seen her recently? She has so much plastic surgery. She looks like Bozo the Clown. It's kind of sad. But yeah, Kathy Griffin holding the head, a fake head of Donald Trump with blood coming out of it. I'd say that's a more direct threat than the seashells. I mean, look, I know a lot of you here are saying on the text line, he deserves to go to jail. Not disagreeing with you, just not sure if it's for the seashells. Hey, by the way, what do the three seashells in Demolition Man actually do? You don't have to describe it to me in graphic detail, but it just got me thinking. I still don't have an answer to what those seashells do. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Jim in Sumner. Jim, what's up?
I just wanted to say, well, 86 isn't really a death threat.
Right.
Yeah, I've been 86 from the bar. But
that's what Kevin said.
They wanted me killed,
That's what Kevin said. Look, some people use it as that term, and I understand that there's a slang to it. I think that James Comey is just a dummy head and didn't understand. Get rid of Donald Trump is what I think he thought he was saying, not kill Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm with you, Jim.
I mean, his attorney ought to be able to get that thrown out immediately.
Yeah, we'll see how this actually goes. We'll see what comes next. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757.
Do we really want to set this precedence too? So then when when it flips and the other side is there and it's just everyone's nitpicking and trying to find stuff with this, it's like this is the stuff that drives most Americans crazy.
Yes. And a lot of people just say, I'm tuning out because of it.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want to deal with it. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
It's stupid. And we got so much going on in the world right now. This is what everybody's talking about. And by the way, gave a talking point to left-wing media. This has been wall to wall, the Comey indictment. They have been so excited about this because they can make Donald Trump look petty and political persecution. Go after them for the Russiagate stuff. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Warren in Port Townsend. Warren, what's going on?
Ari, how are you?
Good. What's up?
Good. What if we don't know everything the prosecution has in investigating this case? What if on one of those beachfront properties somebody had a security camera and that was videotaped with him laying in the sand, laying in the mosaic, and there's Comey and his wife laying in the mosaic on film?
Okay. Well, how about this? What if we have videotape of James Comey going to Mar-a-Lago and trying to kill President Trump? If we have that, then charge him with that.
He called for the assassination of President Trump, 8647. Everybody knows what that means.
I don't think they do. I really don't think they do. And I think if you get a couple jurors, if he just takes one juror, Warren, that's what I'm saying. I want the conviction. And I don't think you have it on this case. That's my main point.
North Carolina. It's North Carolina.
What does North Carolina have to do with it?
It's better than the District of Columbia in trying a case. That's for sure. He's got a better chance, and I agree with you. There could be one juror.
Yeah.
Right, but I think they have a better chance in the Carolinas of getting a prosecution. But my bet is that they have videotape.
If they have more and they can show more and all that, then maybe you got them. But I'm worried. I'm always worried about that one juror.
Like one of your other callers said, I like the aspect of financially bludgeoning him. I mean, I'm really tickled about that because this is not cheap. And good.
Yeah. Hey, Warren, I'm all in on that. You want to ruin these people who tried to ruin our president and members of his cabinet? I am fully in support of that. I really, really am. I want the jumpsuit too. I want all of it.
I think they have beachfront property videotape on a security camera. I think that's why they decided to go with this, is they actually have footage.
Gotcha. All right. We'll see what happens when we get all the information. As they say in Star Wars, we'll follow this case with great interest, right?
You can see where he sprinkled the sand, the whole 9 yards. I mean,
yeah, we'll see.
Anyway.
We will see. Warren, appreciate the call, man. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Kelly in Seattle has answered the question of the day. From Kelly. Regarding the 3 seashells in Demolition Man, they never really said other than that was in the place of toilet paper. The movie ended with Stallone asking Sandra Bullock how they worked, but we never heard her answer. Exactly, Kelly. Exactly. How do the seashells work? Isn't that the last line of the movie? Somebody told me how those 3 seashells work, right? Isn't that the last line of the movie? I want to know how the 3 seashells work. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, Turd Ferguson says he tried to get Starbucks not to leave, but failed dramatically, just like he does in so many other things. We'll give you the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Okay, guys, you're just making me mad about the Demolition Man thing now. I asked about the seashells because I wanted an answer. This one here, somebody just sent me this email from George. He says, in the 1993 film Demolition Man, the 3 seashells are a running gag replacing toilet paper, representing a futuristic, sterile, and incomprehensible bathroom technology. I get that it's incomprehensible, but how do they work? This is a question I may take to the grave with me about the 3 seashells, because I don't even know. It's so frustrating. Maybe they'll address it in the sequel. Did you hear they're actually making a sequel of this movie? Yeah, they're making a sequel. At least there's a script being thrown around. You know who's not planning an extended tour of Seattle? Starbucks. Starbucks is getting out of here, and Starbucks is getting out of here, as they say, with the quickness. So, senior reporter for Como News, Chris Daniels, was at a press conference for Bob Ferguson the other day. I believe it's the press conference where he was talking about targeting ICE. And it looks like Chris Daniels kind of pulled a Jonathan Cho when Ferguson was leaving the presser and not taking any questions. It looks like Chris Daniels just kind of tagged along with him and said, hey, you mind if we do a little walking and talking here if I interview while we go? Well, during this conversation, we found out not only did Bob Ferguson try to stop Starbucks from leaving, but failed spectacularly. Here's a report from Chris Daniels over at Como News.
Starbucks is an important part of the fabric of our community here in Washington State, to put it mildly.
Governor Bob Ferguson acknowledges after he had multiple personal conversations with Starbucks CEO, the company made the decision to build a new headquarters in Nashville.
We understand that any business has to do what they feel is best for them, and expanding their footprint around the country. They're not the first company to do that.
All right, stop right there for a second. Stop right there. Okay, number one. You tried to call him. Do you think maybe he chased them away? Do you think maybe they said, dude, we're on your side. We donate to every insane cause you have. Can you stop it already? Please? We're still trying to make a profit. Then you send Pramila Jayapal down to be part of the Ventifada in front of our building with all the crazy Hamasniks? Really? Yeah, Bob Ferguson screwed that one up, didn't he? Tried to get him to stay? No, they left. But then to say, oh, yeah, they're expanding like all companies do. Oh, spare me. That is nonsense. We know they're not staying. We played for you yesterday the employees that were getting fired, that we didn't even know they were getting laid off in the parking lot. I feel a little bad now. We go to do the radio stunt with the U-Haul and everything. People were actually losing their jobs behind us that day. It was actually happening in real time while we were there that day. One guy, been there 31 years, and they gave him the choice. Go to Nashville or lose your job, and he's not going to Nashville. Starbucks is leaving, and Bob Ferguson couldn't stop him.
Starbucks, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, all cutting jobs in Washington State. Are you concerned about the business climate right now? Of course.
Yet Ferguson blames AI more than a tax for recent events.
A lot of states would love to have our problems in a certain way, but everybody's feeling the impacts of AI and changes that are going on for sure.
Wait. You admit that there's a problem, that businesses are having a problem. You admit that, but you're not actually doing anything to fix that tax situation, are you? You're blaming AI. It is not AI's fault. Why are these? Oh, here we go. Okay, it's AI's fault. Why are they hiring in Nashville? If it's AI's fault, why are they hiring the exact number of people they're laying off here in Seattle in Nashville? Why are they doing that? That's not AI's fault. Why is Amazon hiring elsewhere and not hiring here in Seattle? Why is Microsoft doing layoffs here and not doing them elsewhere? That is not AI's fault. It's just not. It's not. You even had the guy from Microsoft, Brad Smith. He's the CEO of Microsoft, saying that this is the most unfriendly business climate he's been in 30 years. Now, mind you, Brad, you have a share of the responsibility for this because you maxed out your donations to both Turd Ferguson and Nick Brown. So I'm having trouble feeling bad for you. But yes, Bob Ferguson tried to get Starbucks to stay and failed spectacularly. Actually failed. This one here from Euston's, I think the name is Euston's. Maybe I'm wrong. Didn't 86 come from the old TV show Get Smart? Yes, Euston's. He was Agent 86 and Agent 99. That was the whole joke. Get rid of him. Right? That was the whole joke from the show. That was exactly the whole joke. Dan, I can't read this on the radio when you're explaining the 3 seashells. But thank you for your suggestion. Thank you for your support. Thank you for all of that. Yeah, we do appreciate it. Look, when you have Microsoft laying off people, when you have Amazon laying off people, when you have Starbucks moving, the avalanche has already started. What are we at now? Close to 30,000 jobs. 30,000 jobs we have lost since the beginning of the year. Here's something else. Cushman & Wakefield, big real estate company. Well, they put out their latest report on office vacancy rates in the U.S. The highest isn't Los Angeles. It's not New York City. It's not San Francisco. It is Seattle, Washington, with 33%. And that ain't getting better. When we were down there the other day, I couldn't believe how few people were around. There used to be a lot more people around. And do not forget that when the big businesses leave, the small businesses rely on the employees of the big businesses. Also, look at something like Disneyland. Disneyland, somebody makes the churros. Somebody makes the Mickey Mouse ears. If you don't have a Disneyland, you don't have those small businesses anymore. Don't forget, the CEO of Disney sent a letter to Gavin Newsom begging him to reopen Disney during COVID because all those small businesses were going under. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Phil in Puyallup. Phil, what's up?
Hey, I'm a small business owner, and I'd like to leave too. 2 things, maybe 3. My property tax went up 30% in 1 year, from $8,000 to $13,000.
Yeah, I saw my property tax bill the other day. When I paid it, I almost had a heart attack. If my property taxes are now more expensive than my family that lives in really nice neighborhoods in New York. I pay more in property taxes here in Seattle than they pay in New York. Think about that.
So I can deal with it. I'm a small business, and everybody likes to say you make a lot of money. What's your problem? I have a son who bought a house.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shack in Federal Way, and his property taxes are knocking on $500 a month, and he could barely afford to get in the house. So when I was his age, my house payment was $550 a month.
Yeah, I mean,
And
look,
that
for
includes
me,
property taxes.
if I didn't have my mortgage so low, because I have, thank God, a very low mortgage rate, I don't know how I would afford to live in my own house.
Yeah.
Radio money ain't TV money, by the way. It's just not, you know.
Yeah, and here's a third one. This is just on property tax. I've got into B&O tax and every other, state tax. Any kind of tax you can talk about, they're just stupid. But I know elder people who have a house, and they pay $7,000 annually and have home repairs they can't make because they have to pay their property taxes. And so eventually they end up on the long-term care program, and we pay for it because they don't have any money because they spit it all on property taxes. So there you go. That's just property taxes. Why would you stay here?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Believe me, when I saw that bill, I almost had a heart attack. But I'm kind of wondering, did I miss the boat? Is anybody going to buy my house? Look, I've built it up over the years, a piece at a time, a piece at a time. But did I miss the boat on selling it? And now I'm kind of stuck with the thing. Who knows? Phil, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This one from Eben and Bonnie Lake. Ari, Bob Ferguson is right. As long as it is AI that keeps raising taxes in Washington. Thanks. Why do we need a governor or a legislature? Exactly right. Yeah, the text line is really mad at Bob Ferguson, trying to put the blame on AI or anybody else. This is his doing, him and the Democratic Party. Republicans tried to do everything they could to stop this. Up next, my friends, speaking of Republicans trying to stop things, Reagan Dunn, the man who was right about the King County Regional Homeless Authority from the beginning, is now saying how we're going to investigate the fraud. Was there fraud? Will he confirm there's fraud? And are the feds going to get involved? That interview's up next. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. competence and failure and how you're spending billions and billions of dollars and the problem's only getting worse and worse and worse. And of course, that man is King County Council member Reagan Dunn. He joins us now on the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Welcome back to the show, buddy.
Ari, thanks for having me.
Such a pleasure. So do you want to just do an I told you so and we can wrap up the interview? Because what I'd rather hear from you is it's been 6 years of this, billions of dollars spent. And what I can't figure out is why was nobody doing any audits until now? Where'd all that money go?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, we spent many hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer money to this program, and they just have never been able to get off the ground. As I said in my editorial on the Seattle Times 3 years ago, their trajectory was clearly doomed to fail. And there's a bunch of different reasons. One, you got a bunch of lived experience folks who are not competent in managing. They don't care about oversight. And they did things like give themselves unlimited leave at the agency, no audits, no financial controls. So that's one part of the problem. And then Ari, they're pushing failed policies, housing first, no focus on drug or alcohol addiction and recovery, no focus on things like sober living, no focus on mental health challenges, no focus on job training, things that, most Republicans and conservatives would think are important. So obviously it's doomed to failure. Now you got an audit that says this is a bad joke, $15 million missing. And of course, then look at the numbers, the statistical data of the increase in homelessness. We are by far the highest state last year anyway, in increases of homelessness because we're promoting failed policies that are encouraging people to come from out of state to Washington.
It's absolutely crazy to me because we're incentivizing people to come here. But for the last 6 years, why did nobody go, hey, this problem's getting worse? Because we've been tracking it on the show and nobody thought to audit this thing. Nobody from the King County Council. You were the only one. And nobody else said, hey, maybe we should be looking into this at the very least, just to make sure tax dollars are being spent effectively for all the woke nonsense that they actually wanted to do or all the failed policies they wanted to do. Why was nobody looking into it before now?
The whole idea behind the Homeless Governors Authority was so that politicians could push out a really tough issue to a group that could handle it and the politicians wouldn't get screamed at. Okay. The politicians, like the mayors of Seattle and the county execs, they don't have a solution for homelessness. Why? Because they're driving policies that will never solve the problem. Okay. And so they're so paranoid politically, they put this Homeless Governance Authority out there in the middle of nowhere, hoping it would go away. And that was a good, maybe short-term solution to focus attention somewhere else. But of course, the chickens have come home to roost now. The accountability is lacking. I think for the first few years, people wanted to give it time to stand up, so they didn't do audits. But now we're clearly in the time frame where the audits are necessary. They're happening, and it's just utter incompetence. And not only is it managed poorly, the results are far worse now than what we had when we started with these investments.
So are we going to be looking at charges for anybody? Because they say there's no fraud, but how can you prove there's no fraud when there's been no audits and you don't even have all the money and money's missing? How can you say there's been not you, but how can it be said that there's no fraud when there's no way for them to tell there's been no fraud? Are we looking at prosecutions?
Yeah, well, that's, of course, there's fraud. There's significant amounts of fraud. And that's one of the reasons why I've been pushing along with a couple other of my colleagues now, an inspector general that will have subpoena power that can do hardcore investigations, because the KCRHA is only one of the agencies that we have a problem with. In King County, we have this huge problem with DCHS. Seattle Times article at the beginning of the week, Lulu Ramadan wrote $800,000 taken by a manager and given to her various family members. So we have initial audit findings that are very troublesome. Now is the time, in my opinion, to do the law enforcement investigation. The sheriff and Lisa Mannion should be very active in their investigation by now. If they're not, that's a problem. The federal law enforcement should be looking at this closely. And then at the same time, my colleagues who have really been asleep at the switch in terms of oversight need to stick with me and follow my lead in terms of reforming our ethics code, reforming our audit program, making sure our grants are following best practices of accountability moving forward so people believe that the taxpayer dollars are being spent wisely, which they're not.
We're talking with King County Councilmember Reagan Dunn about the massive amounts of, I'll just say, malfeasance, fraud, you name it, in the King County Regional Homeless Authority. What I'm concerned about is what happens to the money now. There's a whole bunch of money that's supposed to be going to the King County Regional Homeless Authority. What ends up happening to that money? How do we make sure this never happens again? And I'm worried that when we dissolve this thing, that some of your colleagues want it dissolved because they don't want their buddies going to jail. How would you answer that?
Yeah, well, I think the mortal wounds have happened now. I think that there are a number of people that are going to go to jail, regardless of what the politicians do. I think you're concerned about the money being spent. It's going to take a year or so to unwind. It's going to take a year or so to get my inspector general up. It's going to take a year or so to get DCHS fraud stuff handled. And at the same time, budgets have already been passed and money's going. So, for example, KCRHA, county kicks in about 80 million annually, the city about 120 million, give or take. That's $200 million are going to go out the next year. And some of that's going to these organizations that are a bad joke. And, let's go back to why this all really started, right? Remember George Floyd and everything that happened there. The Democrats, the downtown Seattle establishment, put all this money into various coalitions that were supposed to affect things like institutional racism. And all these nonprofits that have never existed before, many of them not nonprofits legally, put their oar in the water, got some money, and they didn't have the experience seasoning internal controls. Some people were, quite frankly, just there to get the check from the government. And it has turned into a total disaster, total policy failure. And sadly, those tax dollars haven't achieved any meaningful results.
Yeah, this is what we've seen across the board, and we can trace it right back to 2020. In fact, when they were defunding the Seattle Police Department, all of a sudden Jenny Durkin and the Seattle City Council were giving money to a lot of these nonprofits. There were fraud allegations back then. They shut it down before the investigation could go further. But that's my concern with something like this. So before we let you go, we're talking with King County Councilmember Reagan Dunn, because he was the one who saw all this coming, all this fraud coming with the King County Regional Homeless Authority and how inept they would be. Have you spoken to anybody in the federal government about any of this? Do you know if they're going to come help out with this? Because I can't believe as a conservative I'm saying this. I have more faith in the federal government than I do in some local entities investigating this.
Well, I won't privy you into conversations I might have had, except to say that I think it would be appropriate for federal investigators to look at this if our local criminal justice community won't. And so public corruption is part of the series of charges that the U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI, can investigate. All this malfeasance, there's a lot of stuff that could be looked at. It is time now, while we work on reforms at the county, for the investigatory arms of law enforcement to look at this. And I don't think that is an unreasonable request, and I hope they take it seriously.
King County Councilmember Reagan Dunn, appreciate you being on top of this since before it began, trying to stop it. And if only the Democrats, in the King County Council had actually wanted to see this. This was there for anybody to see. You were the one who called them out. And it's too bad it worked out this way, because this was all entirely avoidable. So kudos to you, sir, for not being silent and calling this out the entire time.
Thanks, Ari. Yeah, we'll just keep. I just believe in making the trains run on time, and we have got to do things to earn people's trust. And right now, affordability and costs are everything to Americans and to people in our community. And we need to make sure the government is spending wisely. If not, they're wasting tax dollars, and it goes to the issue of cost and affordability.
Couldn't have said it better myself. King County Councilmember Reagan Dunn, do appreciate your time. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Remember yesterday, we did this absolutely awful story that women in Washington prisons are being violently and sexually abused by men, and not men who identify as women, men who are identifying as women so they can be in a women's prison and they can do these things. Because if you're going to be behind bars for years, you want some companionship. And local officials are looking the other way. One of these women sued Washington State and the Washington Department of Corrections just the other day, as well she should have. Now, she obviously can't come on the show, but her lawyer is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow to discuss this whole situation they're going to be talking about. Now, the person who sent me the story originally is one of our listeners named Beth. Beth is very active in local politics, and she actually went to the 46th District Democrats were having a meeting of the representatives from the 46th District were there. So you had Representative Jerry Pollitt and you had Senator Valdez were there. And Beth asked them this question. Now, listen to their response carefully on this one.
Hi. Last year I asked you about a lawsuit against Washington State by a woman who had been sexually assaulted in the jail by a male she was forced to share a jail cell with. She was repeatedly molested. Yesterday, a new lawsuit was filed about a different male molesting and assaulting women in the women's correctional facility, and nothing has been done by the legislature. These women are repeatedly assaulted, molested, groped, threatened by males. This one is 6'4". He's a child molester. And women are forced to share their showers, their jail cells, and everything else with them. What do you have to say about that?
They're just staring at her.
Are you saying that the males, when you say male, Beth, I assume from having checked previously, you mean someone who is now a woman, a female.
Stop right there. Stop right there. Do you know the problem with that? Beth just told him the facts of the case. They're being molested, raped, and you name it, by these men, which means they have their equipment. You're hung up on your woke nonsense? Well, are you just saying it's a man when really it's a man who identifies as a woman or may have had the surgery? It's a dude. It doesn't change the XY chromosome. You may not have any balls there, sir, but these guys clearly do.
And had been a male before transitioning.
A child sex offender who is fully intact male is able to sexually assault women and impregnate them. They do consider themselves female, but they're 6'4", and they're sex offenders, child sex offenders, and other they've done violence against women, children as well.
Thank you for your question, Beth.
Thank you for your question. That's it. Thank you for your question. Well, gentlemen, if you can call yourselves that, I'm going to be reaching out to your offices, and I'm going to be asking you the exact same question. And I'm going to add in a sweetener. Why were you such big wusses you couldn't even answer the question? And I'm going to share this video as many times as I possibly can on social media. It's already got over 11,000 views. We'll see how many more we can crank this thing up to. I think some of my friends nationally need to see this. Good luck running for re-election, boys. Hope it's a fun campaign for you. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Dave in Monroe. Dave, what's up, man?
Yes, I came to this beautiful state in 1980 at 20 years old. There was a Republican governor, John Spellman. There was no homelessness, very little crime, no boys playing in girls' sports, no men in women's jails. And I have watched this state do the same thing that happened to Detroit. The reason why I left shit-filled Detroit, because the Democrats
careful with the cussing there, Dave. Can't do that on air, okay? Can't do that on air,
well,
Dave. Yeah.
Got it. So anyways, I've been here now for 45 years, and I have watched the Democratic Party destroy, and also it's been a Democratic governor every year since 1985, Ari. How can that happen? 40 years and never a Republican governor? And everything that's wrong with the state is because the Democratic Party, I mean, look, the last guess you had, men in women's jails, boys playing in girls' sports, our taxes, that income, millionaire income tax, two-thirds of all those millionaire incomes will be gone before 2029. So guess what? That $3 billion they hope to get will be gone. It'll be $1 billion. Now they're after you and me. So the whole thing is, the Democratic Party is the reason why this state has gone right straight down into the toilet, and nobody emphasizes the fact the Democrats have ruined this state.
Yeah, they have. They 100% have. I moved here 22 years ago, and I had a very similar experience. Dave, I totally hear where you're coming from with that, man. That's why we got to do something to fix it by educating more people and telling them what's going on. Their vote matters, so does yours. Appreciate the call. When we come back, my friends, final hour free-for-all. More of your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories. Plus, there may be some good news regarding gas prices. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Erica Kirk describes exactly why she was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner and finally calls out Candace Owens. But before we get to any of that, time to talk about our governor, Bob Ferguson.
Yeah, it's not my name.
All right, Turd Ferguson.
I can't believe I fell for clickbait from King 5 today. I cannot believe it. I saw a headline on their website as I was looking for stories today, and it says, Ferguson addresses gas tax relief as prices hit record highs. And stupid me, as opposed to going, I bet he just ragged on Donald Trump. I said, gee, I wonder what he said. I should have predicted this. I guess I just wasn't in the right frame of mind today. You know exactly where this is going, don't you? I'm just going to read it from King 5 because it makes it all the more frustrating. With Seattle area gas prices at an all-time high, Washington lawmakers are calling on Governor Bob Ferguson to temporarily lift the tax burden on consumers to provide short-term relief. Reasonable request, by the way. When asked about a potential for a tax holiday, Ferguson placed the blame on President Donald Trump. Literally the second line of the article. The second line. Couldn't even get that far. Quote, the pain is coming from Donald Trump in this outrageous war in the Middle East that seems to have no end. It's been 2 months, dude. It's been 2 months. And the Iranian regime barely exists anymore. What are you talking about? If people are concerned about gas prices, they should call up Donald Trump and tell him, hey, end the war, get our gas prices under control. That's our focus right now. Which means, you greedy bastard, you're not going to give up any of the money you're taking in taxes. None. None of it whatsoever. Now, here's something that's fascinating. Does this article in any place whatsoever talk about the Climate Commitment Act? The average price for a gallon of regular unleaded gas in Seattle, Bellevue, and Everett on Tuesday was $5.72, an all-time high, according to AAA. That surpasses the previous record set on June 2022. Didn't hear Bob complaining back then. Didn't hear Jay Inslee complaining back then, did we? Prices are up 11 cents from a week ago and 19 cents from a month ago. That's nothing compared to the taxes they put on us. Washington carries the third highest gas tax in the country at 55 cents per gallon. Oh, it's not 55 cents per gallon. This is King 5 doing what King 5 does. Our gas tax is actually somewhere around $1.50 per gallon. They're saying it's just that. Never mind the Climate Commitment Act. That's a different tax. Never mind the road tax. Never mind the federal taxes. Never mind any of that. A 2% increase is scheduled to take effect in July, and the same annual increase set to follow each year. That's right. The Democrats did that last year. Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate that. The gas tax is the state's single largest source of transportation funding. Oh, now you're trying to cover for Turd Ferguson. Well, if he got rid of that, we wouldn't have funding for transportation. Take it from the car tabs. Pulling that revenue, even temporarily, would put road repairs and construction projects across the state at risk. Spare me. Spare me. You're not fixing anything right now. There was, when I was driving my kids to school, so what are we looking at? About 7-8 years ago now was the last time I had all of them in a car together. About 7-8 years ago, there's this one road I had to avoid because it was being redone. 7-8 years ago. And they finished redoing the thing, looked beautiful, added the bike lanes, added all this other stuff. I drove on it the other day. I don't really have a reason to go that way. 5 years later, I saw a thing starting to crumble. Now I went on it. It's undrivable. It is undrivable. The Romans can build roads that last for thousands of years. WashDOT, Seattle Department of Transportation, can't build one that lasts a decade. Just can't do it. This one here. In March, Congressman Michael Baumgartner called on state leaders to temporarily suspend the state's Climate Commitment Act, which he said adds an estimated 40 to 50 cents to the cost of a gallon of gas. See, they built them out separately. And you see the way they frame it, which he says adds this to a gallon of gas. Oh, spare me your nonsense. Our gas tax is between $1.30 and $1.55 here in this state, and up to 55 cents of that is the Climate Commitment Act, which is literally just going to not fixing the climate. It is going to far-left activist groups that claim they're fixing the climate and aren't actually doing anything to fix it. But King 5 is covering for them. But it doesn't change the fact that gas prices are very, very high. I'll tell you how I know the Trump administration is listening to the show, because yesterday I had a discussion about what would I say to President Trump if I had him for 30 minutes this week. What would I discuss with him? What advice would I give him? And I said, I don't want to give him any advice. I want to have a discussion with him. I want to have a discussion about whether or not we can mobilize American energy. Because the problem is, if you ramp up American energy too much while there's high demand, and then it crashes back down when the war is over, now you have to lay people off. You have a whole bunch of infrastructure you're not using. It's bad. There are bad effects, and it can go the other way very, very quickly. But I said I want to have a discussion about, can we do that? Because ramping up American energy also does affect the price of futures, which means people know gas is going to be cheaper in the future. And because it's cheaper in the future, because you're looking into the future, into what stocks might be, what things might be worth, you might be able to bring down the prices now. That's a discussion I want to have. From Jackie Heinrich over at Fox News. The president meets with energy executives frequently to get their feedback on domestic and international energy markets, and they met yesterday. Scott Bessent, Secretary of the Treasury, was the host of the meeting, and the Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, and Vice President Vance were there as well. The executives discussed many topics, including domestic production, progress in Venezuela, oil futures, natural gas, and shipping. They also discussed how the U.S. is doing better than others. They discussed the steps President Trump has taken to alleviate global oil markets, and steps we could take to continue the current blockade for months if needed and minimize impact on American consumers. The executives all spoke highly of the actions President Trump has taken to unleash American energy dominance and said the president is doing all the right things right now. Now, that's not very comforting for those of you who have to pay a lot of money at the pump. Well, here's this. The U.S. is importing crude oil from Venezuela, exporting diesel, gasoline, and jet fuel to Europe, with Venezuela no longer sending oil to China. It is mostly going to go to refineries in Texas and India. Then those refineries are shipping gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel to markets in Asia and Europe, which means now we are the energy superpower. The question is, can you ramp it up enough? Can you import enough? Can you export enough so that they're not reliant on the Strait of Hormuz and Iran anymore? Now, what's going on in the Gulf that directly affects this? The UAE, the United Arab Emirates, have said they are breaking away from OPEC. Is this good news? Is this bad news? We know that OPEC, the big baddies of the 1970s and 80s with their oil prices. Well, here's the thing. OPEC controls the production of how much their members actually do. So the UAE says we don't want to be under your control anymore because we want to make more. There's a growing demand for it. Europe isn't far away. We want to ramp up production. Look, if they want to take the risk on infrastructure and staffing and all the cautionary things I said just a few minutes ago about what it could do to American energy, let them. Let them go ahead and do it. Now, if others do the same thing and ramp up their production, now you've got more production on the other side of the world. Now you don't need to worry about Iran as much anymore. You can replace what's not coming out of Iran right now if they ramp up production. In the past, they have refused to do so because they like when there's more demand and less supply, that means gas costs more money, which means they make more money. So this could, in theory, be good news right now because if oil supply goes up, that means demand goes down. That means prices go down. And this could actually work out very, very well. We will have to wait and see if this approach works. But for a lot of you, you don't want to be reliant on OPEC. You don't want to be reliant on the UAE. You want to be reliant on America, and we're doing all the things we can do right now. The question is, are they going to ramp it up more and more? In the short term, this doesn't do a lot for your wallet. So the question is, how are things going with the war? Well, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth was up on Capitol Hill today, and here's what he said.
I really appreciate your opening statement. I think something that obviously the media doesn't want to cover and doesn't want to talk about is the historic record-breaking surge in recruiting in our ranks. 30-year record in recruiting of Americans wanting to join our joint force, wanting to put the uniform on. We're meeting recruiting goals halfway through the year. We couldn't meet our recruiting goals under the previous administration. Under Joe Biden, Americans didn't want to join the military. We couldn't get it. Now we have to turn people away and push them to the next fiscal year. That's why this budget grows our force by almost 50,000. Ultimately, additional troops into the force that we believe we can recruit. That's the best vote of confidence I can imagine.
So that's good news right there. We don't have the recruiting issues anymore. That's great news. That's huge news. Okay, we got fighting men and women ready to go do our thing. Well, the Democrats really don't like Pete Hegseth. They really don't like Donald Trump. And basically, these hearings are just a way for all of them to get their video on C-SPAN or M-Snow or CNN or whatever the case may be. This is Representative Jacobs trying to challenge Pete Hegseth, and let's just say it did not go well for her.
Do you believe that the president is mentally stable enough to be the commander-in-chief?
Did you ask the same question of Joe Biden for 4 years?
Mr. Secretary, Joe Biden is not the president. Mr. Trump has been president for 1.5 years, and I'm asking you
did
right
not.
now.
And I won't even engage with the level of disparagement that you're putting on the commander-in-chief, who indeed is... meeting
Mr. Secretary,
every single day.
Mr. Secretary, Biden is not the president.
He's the sharpest, most insightful commander-in-chief we've had in generations. And you want to compare, you want to ask that question after you and your fellow Democrats defended Joe Biden, who could barely speak and didn't know what day of the week it was?
As you know,
he governed through an auto pen. We had a Secretary of Defense who went AWOL for a week. I can't be gone for 10 days, for 10 minutes.
I will reclaim my time.
Ladies' time.
Ask a stupid question, get a stupid answer. I mean, really, she set herself up for that one. She set her up for this one. They're projecting. They're trying to claim that Trump isn't fit for office. That guy, you may not like him. He is sharp. Joe Biden was not. He had to be directed around by the Easter Bunny. We all remember this, right? Nobody could tell me how much they love Joe Biden. They could just tell me how much they hated Donald Trump. Well, our very own Representative Adam Smith, who fancies himself an expert on war, decided to go head-to-head with Pete Hegseth and got pretty vicious at times.
Since the war started, Iran's nuclear arsenal has not been weakened in any way. And at the moment, in negotiations, what Iran is saying, basically pay us to open up the strait. That's their position, which is completely untenable. I agree. It's worth noting, of course, that the strait was open before the war started. Now we're negotiating to get back to status quo. And Iran's most recent offer is to say, we'll talk about nukes later. So what is the plan to actually turn all of this lethal kinetic action into an improvement in the nuclear situation? Because we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there before Secretary Hegseth answers that. There are so many things wrong with what he just said. And let's start with this. Number one, if you take out all their defenses, guess what? All their stuff is vulnerable. In addition to that, you took out all the people who called the shots regarding launching any of those missiles. They're all gone. They're all dead. In addition to that, you have cut off a lot of their supplies so they can't use them to continue that weapons development. So just from a factual basis, he's framing it in such a way where he's trying to put Secretary Hegseth on defense, and it did not work out so well for him.
Play it out for us. How does that happen? How does it actually lead to that result?
Well, I would take issue with the premise of the question that nothing was done. Operation Midnight Hammer was a very effective...
Well, I didn't say nothing was done. I said in this war.
Ultimately,
this war started.
Well, this is under this administration, unlike other administrations, which cut bad deals and pallets of cash with no ability to oversee whether Iran is actually pursuing a nuclear program. So if we want to litigate JCPOA or the Iran deal, our view, the president's view, is that was a very bad deal.
Now, mind you, Adam Smith was one of the people who really supported it, and when he was on this show, he didn't like me bringing that up either. He said I wasn't telling the truth regarding the deal when I said the exact same thing Pete Hegseth did, where you're sending pallets of cash over to the #1 state sponsor of terror, and they're using it to fund terror. In addition to that, you notice how he changes the parameters. He says, no, I'm not talking about Operation Midnight Hammer. I'm talking about since this war began. Now, I remember you, Adam Smith, criticizing us bombing those facilities and not being in support of that. We had you on the show after that. So you're just trying to find a way to attack. You're not actually looking for an answer on how the war is going.
Okay. It gave them a bunch of money up front.
What's the future?
To fund, you talked about negotiated deals. Allowed them to fund their proxies and spread Hamas and Hezbollah all around the region, build up nuclear capabilities.
That's great. What are we going to do now?
President Trump has been clear-eyed, from the killing of Qasem Soleimani to the pulling out of the Iran deal, to Midnight Hammer, and now to this effort to recognize that you have to stare down this kind of enemy who's hell-bent on getting a nuclear weapon and get them to a point where they're at the table giving it up in a way that
so they
never have it.
So they haven't broken yet. Okay, we haven't gotten there yet for all of the...
Well, their nuclear facilities have been obliterated.
Okay, and here's something else, Adam Smith. You were paying them. You were funding their terror with the JCPOA. You were funding it. That's how we got to this place. If the decades you were in office, you weren't funding things like this, we wouldn't have had to go and do all this.
Underground, they're buried, and we're watching them 24/7. So we know where any nuclear material
reclaiming
might be.
My time for
we're watching
a quick second here. We had to start this war, you just said, 60 days ago, because the nuclear weapon was an imminent threat. Now you're saying that it was completely obliterated?
They had not given up their nuclear ambitions, and they had a conventional shield of thousands of missiles.
So Operation Midnight Hammer accomplished nothing of substance. It left us at exactly the same place.
Oh, dear God, I can't anymore with him. I can't. Basically, the point of congressional hearings is just so you can get the video clip you want. So I'm sure Adam Smith's team is like, look, he got Pete Hegseth, which he didn't, by the way. And I'm sure that the White House accounts are like, look how Pete Hegseth handled Adam Smith. At the end of the day, Adam Smith is lying. He sees intelligence reports. He knows they were starting to uncover the stuff from the ground. He also knows that they were still developing weapons at other facilities. We didn't take out all of them. They had more of them. They had more of them, and they were gonna use them. They had threatened to use them. But here's something else. Adam Smith, his whole time in office was negotiate. How long has he been in office for? 20 years? 30 years? 30 years of negotiating got you to this point where you ended up paying off the terrorists. Oh, please don't hurt us if we give you billions of dollars. And what did they do? They funded terror with it. They funded Hezbollah. That's killed tons of Americans. They funded Hamas, which has killed tons of Americans. They funded all these organizations. Forget Israel for a second. They funded all these organizations that killed Americans. They used U.S. taxpayer dollars to kill Americans. And now they're trying to justify it? Now they're trying to say, oh, this war meant nothing. This war is meaningless. Adam Smith is so desperate to beat Shama Sawant, the Marxist, that he's now taking the side of this was a waste. And by doing so, you're disparaging the fighting men and women of our U.S. forces. But in addition to that, you're saying we would have been better off with the Ayatollah in charge? We would have been better off with an Iran that can launch ballistic weapons anytime it wants at anybody in the region, including Europe, we found out, by the way? You think we would have been better off that way? You really do? I'm curious. Do you agree with Representative Adam Smith? Do you think we would have been better off if we had just held the status quo for a little bit longer? Hey, you want to support him, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We'll give you all the time in the world to prove how wrong you are. We will give you all that time. Basically, today was for sound bites. They're going to vote the military budget. They're going to shadow dance over this stuff. They're going to vote for it, and we're going to be able to go finish the job. One can only hope. Up next, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show continues, including the fact that now Erica Kirk is speaking out about why she was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner and all the people disparaging her, what happened when she actually confronted them. We'll have that insane audio for you, and in fact, awesome audio for you when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just letting you know, we got a brand new contest for everybody. That's right, and it's just on KVI.com. Enter to win a pair of tickets to a concert of your choice to either Lionel Richie, Santana, and the Doobie Brothers, or Toto plus Christopher Cross and the Romantics. Now, you can get all the details for these concerts at livenation.com/promotion/summer of live.
Okay, let me clarify here.
Yes.
Because, again, this is written kind of weird, I think, on the card that you have. The concerts are Lionel Richie with Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's one concert.
Not even on here.
Santana and the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the other one.
Yeah.
And then the third one is Toto, Christopher Cross, and the Romantics.
Okay.
Those are the three choices.
Those are the three choices. All right. We'll have promotions department about this one later because that's completely wrong. But anywho, the tickets go on sale today. That's right, starting today. So make sure you get your tickets now, and you can enter to win the concert of your choice over at KVI.com right now. That's KVI.com. Erica Kirk was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and there's a really heartbreaking video where you see her leaving, and she just says, "I just want to go home. I just want to go home." After an attempted assassination on the president, after her husband was assassinated just a few months ago, I can imagine, pretty awful. And yet the attacks on her just keep on coming and just keep on coming. Why does she put herself into these situations? What was she doing in the room? She was on Charlie Kirk's show today, and here's what she said.
Asking why I even went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And it was because many of the journalists in that room have attempted to dehumanize me, and I wanted to meet some of them face to face, quite frankly. Why have a conversation about me when you can have a conversation with me? So, for example, a journalist from the Daily Mail came up to me. She introduced herself, and she was very gracious. She was saying, "You look so beautiful. I'm so sorry for your loss." To which I replied, "It is so nice to put a name to the face, especially with all of the slander, the lies, accusations that are out there surrounding my husband's murder and myself." And I said to her, "You know what's so interesting? This is my first time at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and I find it so fascinating, the dynamic that is going on right now, because everyone is all dressed up, and you guys are co-mingling in and out of each other's cocktail parties. And so for one night, you are able to put aside all of your differences for the sake of freedom of speech. And then by Monday morning, things will go back to being an absolute bloodbath between all of you." To which she replied, literally, she said, "I know. Isn't it special, right? Isn't tonight so special?"
That's twisted. That's twisted. As opposed to going, "You know, you're right. I'm going to be nicer to my colleagues." Instead, it's, "Oh, this one night is great, but, you know, isn't it nice we can all be friends tonight and then kill each other tomorrow?" I think this person put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. I think that's what this was. Meanwhile, Erica Kirk doesn't normally directly respond to crazy, like the Candace Owens of the world who keep accusing her of killing her own husband and say other ridiculous, awful stuff just to get the clicks. Here's what she said just after that.
In this culture we're living in, absorbs disagreement as a form of personal betrayal. It turns having an opposing viewpoint into a moral crime worthy of punishment. And here's what I've realized through all of this, truly, having lived through quite literal hell these past 7 months, if you strip someone of their humanity long enough, you will arrive at the chilling conclusion that they don't deserve to exist at all. Every morning I wake up to a new headline lying about me. I have comedians dressing up in whiteface. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO. And I have Candace Owens claiming I murdered my husband. And the list goes on and on and on. There is a serious epidemic of dehumanization plaguing this country.
In fact, I will argue that's being paid for. I did a little experiment before the show today. I know that sometimes when I post certain buzzwords on X, for example, I'll get a certain response from the bots. I put up that video you just heard with the quote of what she said. I just said, here's what Erica Kirk said, right? Every morning I wake up to another headline lying about me. I have comedians dressing up in whiteface. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO. And I have Candace Owens claiming that I murdered my husband. I just put that up, knowing that the words Erica Kirk were in it. This is not a well-performing post because I put it up right before the show, and that's not exactly prime posting time. There are 6 comments on here. 6 comments. 5 of them are bots. 5 of them are bots who do not follow me, who I've never interacted with before in my life, and some of the bots are getting likes and clicks because they're getting likes and clicks from other bots. This is organized. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is organized. Whoever it is that wants to demonize this woman, whoever it is that wants to dehumanize this woman, this is organized and somebody's paying for it. Somebody's paying the bots to do this. I mean, the comments on here are just absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. Going after a woman who lost her husband earlier this year. For what? These aren't people. These are bots. Little robots on the internet saying bad things, which is pretty messed up. Who would be behind something like that? Let's not forget, you got people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, who say whatever they can to get the clicks. And I'm reminded constantly of what Mike and Kevin told me. I don't even remember what the comment was that I made years ago, but I made some comment, and they said, look, you want to be a shock jock, you can go down that road. Or you can be the voice that, people respect and people trust. I had Zach mad at me today about a meme I made because he goes, it calls into question your news skills because people don't know the difference between the memes and when you're actually breaking news. And he had a legit point. Some people do whatever they can for the clicks. And that's what the Candace Owens, and unless they're purely evil, like it looks like Candace Owens is becoming more and more every day. The Candace Owens, the Tucker Carlsons, all these people doing it purely for the clicks. What insane thing can we say today? The Hassan Pikers of the world. What insane thing can we say today that'll get me in the news, that'll get me more clicks, that'll get me more monetization? Literally, people selling their souls. It's twisted. The poor woman hasn't been through enough. She hasn't been through enough. It's crazy. The word Nazis in one of these comments. For Erica Kirk? Really? That's what the bots are programmed to do. It's sick. It's twisted. And I think what's even more sick and twisted is what that reporter said. Isn't it nice we could be friends for one night but really want to kill each other? As opposed to, hey, let's be civil. We'll just ask questions from different sides of the aisle that would pertain to politics. Instead, we're just going to go attack each other and beat each other up. I think she completely missed what Erica Kirk was trying to tell her. And I think that happens far too often. Up next, my friends, a lot of people are missing what's happening with all these activist groups. Now there are very serious allegations about rape, abuse, and other things going on inside those encampments. We'll tell you what's up next when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Good news, everybody. I know some of you have been worried about the podcast. Well, guess what? We got everything transferred over with our new podcast player, and the podcast and the KVI app should be up to date. So make sure you download the KVI app, subscribe to the podcast on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. And remember, the best ways to always listen to Talk Radio 570 KVI is live as we're on air. Plus, then you can call me, you can yell at me, you can talk to me, you can text me, you can do all that kind of stuff. And then we can have these conversations like Rob in Lakewood, who wants me to invite Adam Smith on the show. And you know the problem is, Rob? I'm going to tell you this. It's not a no. It's not a cowardice thing. It's none of that. The last time we had him on, I didn't ask him on the show. He asked to come on the show. And I think the reason he asked to come on the show, which he has never done before, I've been doing this for 5 years now, he has never asked to come on the show, ever. I think the reason he asked to come on the show is he's worried about losing the right. And he wanted the right to be able to have a conversation with him so he doesn't sound like, he's talking to Kshama Sawant, because Adam Smith is a chameleon. When you are in a room with Adam Smith, and I've been in rooms with Adam Smith, you would think you're talking to a moderate Democrat. And then I hear the way he talks to some of his constituents, he sounds like a far-left Democrat. And I see the way he talks on TV. He sounds like Kshama Sawant. He is a true political chameleon. Now, what I care about is how the guy votes. And for the most part, he still votes like a moderate Democrat. But the problem is he's so worried about losing to Kshama Sawant that he's going to keep saying things like this. And the last time we had him on air, I went back and listened to the interview the other day because I was debating inviting him back. The last time we had him on air, you know what the problem was? He kept saying to me things, I'm paraphrasing what he said, that I didn't know what I was talking about because I didn't have the intelligence report he does. That's the Joe Kent excuse. I know that we gave $1.3 billion in unmarked cash on pallets off an airplane in the middle of the night to Iran. What do you think the number one state sponsor of terror did with that money? What do you think they did with it? Do I need to see an intelligence report to do that? Were they buying diapers and baby bottles for the people in Iran? Methinks not. So why have him back on the show? If he asks to come back on the show, fine. But I'm not going to just say, oh, let's have him on the show to defend all this. He's going to give me the same answers he just gave Pete Hegseth. The same exact stuff. He's going to try and wiggle out of all of it. My problem right now is I actually want to send a request to his office that says, dude, the activists are showing up at your house on a regular basis. The activists are demonizing you, and you are losing the right, where we have no Republican option running in that race. It's him or Kshama Sawant. That's the way it goes. And before all this, I would have filled in the ballot for him. Just because it's him or Kshama Sawant, what are you going to do, right? Can't take the chance of her winning. Now, I'm not even so sure. And you're losing the right. You're losing the right. You really, really are. This is the kind of thing that loses people elections, by the way. And meanwhile, who are the activists you're supporting? There are more and more reports coming out of sexual abuse, violence, inside all these Gaza encampments, the flotillas, and elsewhere, which was ignored. Mainstream media wasn't doing their jobs. And us in conservative media, we were too busy running for our lives. Well, now intrepid reporter Jessica Russack-Hoffman for the Jewish News Syndicate has this article. Groups ostensibly devoted to protecting women have been accused since October 7th of prioritizing attacking the Jewish state over that mission. UN Women took some 8 weeks to note numerous accounts of Hamas's gender-based violence. Amnesty International did not fully acknowledge such violence until December 2025, and feminist and human rights activists wrote in February 2024 of Israel weaponizing the issue of rape after October 7th. Meanwhile, the Gaza flotilla and other anti-Israel entities are said to have overlooked sexual violence in their ranks, and Hamas is accused of sexually abusing children as a recruitment tactic and sexually extorting widows for aid or money. By the way, you know what happened today? The flotilla got boarded. You know what they found? Condoms. Lots of condoms. Drugs and condoms. Yeah, they're really bringing aid to Gaza. David Arazad, assistant professor of research fellow at Hillsdale's College Graduate Government School, told JNS that people who purport to care about women show their true colors when they prioritize attacking Israel. Quote, the cause is so important to them that they will overlook injustices for fear that drawing attention to them would hurt the cause. More importantly, it reveals what bad people they are. They hector and claim the mantle of justice while committing vicious acts and preying upon others. Mika Hackner, research director at the North American Values Institute, told the outlet that anti-Israel activists overlook sexual misconduct accusations because they have a necessary and willing blindness so that they can continue to believe that the cause is just. Any action in its service must be just too, she said. They have fully accepted the idea that it is not for privileged or the oppressors to question how the oppressed resist. Taryn Thomas told JNS that she participated in an encampment at Stanford University, but changed the way she looked at Israel and Hamas after seeing an exhibit at the Nova Music Festival in Los Angeles. Thomas said she went to the exhibit looking for ways to discredit the Jewish state, but instead came to sympathize more with Israel after seeing the reality of kids my age hunted mid-dance. Quote, there is no propaganda and half-finished text messages from a dying girl. It forced me to acknowledge the suffering on the other side that the movement required me to ignore. Thomas, who said that she visited Israel twice since then, said that at the Stanford encampment, there was certainly a willingness to look away from the various forms of misconduct. She experienced racism, saw blatant anti-Semitism at the encampment where physical or verbal abuses could be sidelined if addressing them threatened the group's cohesion. They said the environment was undoubtedly influenced by the broader denial of sexual violence during October 7th when leaders publicly rationalize, victim blame, or dismiss such violence because it sets a dangerous precedent. Thomas showed JNS screenshots of what she said was a conversation with a leader of the encampment. The image appeared to show the encampment leader saying that Zionists own much of the porn industry, that the Israeli propaganda machine tries to use sexual appeal to make people want to settle, and that there's some connections between Jeffrey Epstein and Israel. The same nonsense we hear all the time. The screen captures also seems to show that the encampment leader suggested that Hamas attackers may have thought the Nova Festival was a sex cult, given how little dressed people are at those types of events. Thomas told JNS that she shared verified reports of sexual assault against October 7th victims with the encampment leader who responded, there may have been certain cases, those need to be fact-checked. The official Hamas stance is that committing such acts is prohibited. When the people in charge hold these views, she said, it creates an environment where sexual misconduct within their own ranks is far more likely to go unchecked. Anti-Israel groups, she says, don't have any interest in anything except advancing their revolutionary activism, and certainly not anything like creating a paper trail of evidence of the wrongdoing within their own movement. Is anybody surprised that you hear about these stuff within their own movement? You remember the Occupy Wall Street? You remember by the end of it, they had a no-rape tent? A no-rape tent in the Occupy. So any other tent you can get raped in, but not in the no-rape tent. And that was in the middle of Midtown Manhattan. This kind of stuff was also happening on the flotillas. This kind of stuff was also happening on college campuses. And nobody wanted to talk about it. Quote, it's a common mistake people make expecting radical leftists to be consistent with their stated values and causes. They never are. They're only consistent with advancing revolutionary activism by any means necessary. That's why they think it's okay to beat people up. That's why they think it's okay to assault people, block people from going into events, vandalize property because it furthers the cause. That's why they think whatever they do is okay. Blocking ambulances on I-5, blocking police cars on I-5. That's why they think it's okay, because it's advancing the cause. What a sick and twisted mindset. And the fact that people still haven't woken up to it is absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines put a smile on your face, especially after that dark and dreary story right there heading into your evening commute. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And I don't know why the Seahawks haven't been to the White House yet. These guys went to the moon, came back, and they went to the White House today. It shouldn't be that hard to get a flight from Seattle or wherever they are. What's the holdup with the Seahawks going to the White House? I haven't seen anything about it. In fact, the White House is supposed to be letting me know when they're coming so I can go with them to cover the story. What is the holdup around here? Anyway, in the good news, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, welcomed the astronauts of Artemis II to the Oval Office today. Here's a little sound from that.
We have some people that have captivated the attention of the whole world, not just our country, the whole world, and they're very brave, and there was a lot of rocket under them. I never saw anything like that. We were talking about it. It's I don't know how they do it. I wouldn't want to do it, but it takes people like this to make our country great. And again, I've never seen anything. Everybody I knew, they wanted to see the launch, and they especially wanted to see a successful landing. And Jared, I want to congratulate you, what you've done at NASA. I made a great choice. And if you have any questions for any of us, feel free to ask. But we're very proud of these people. They have unbelievable courage. Unbelievable. A lot of other things too, by the way. To get in there, you have to be very smart. You have to do a lot of things physically good. So I would have had no trouble making it. Physically very, very good. Maybe a little bit of a problem. I don't know, sure. We'll have to try it sometime. Is a president allowed to go up in one of these missions?
We can get working on that.
We'd have no problem, right?
We'll launch more rockets. The opportunity.
We'll have to try it. Congratulations very much. And by the way, the families are over here, beautiful families, and they're in the Oval Office, and they walked in, they said, wow, the Oval Office. Everybody likes the Oval Office.
I would love to go to the Oval Office. I have not had the pleasure. Hopefully for America's 250th. Hopefully we're going to work out that trip so we can be in D.C. for that occasion for July 4th this year and broadcast the show from there. I will say this. Somebody asked me a while ago, Ari, what's on your bucket list? Is it skydiving? What is it? And I said, I want to go to space. Space. I really don't have much on there. What I also want to do is hit every major U.S. landmark. There's a lot of them I haven't been to yet. I've never been to Pearl Harbor. That's on my bucket list. I want to see all this country has to offer. I've never been to Mount Rushmore. Never been to Mount Rushmore. When my wife and I moved out here, she was, I think, 15 months pregnant at the time. So she clearly did not want to do a road trip in a Camaro across the U.S. I can't imagine why she wouldn't want to do that. But I really want to do the road trip. So I feel like I have missed out on my opportunity to see so much of what this country has to offer. I assume that if she had agreed to this, it would have been the I-80 to I-90 to Seattle. You know, the quick way across the top. No, I've seen that map of the ultimate road trip where it zigs and zags and goes everywhere, and somehow you end up in Vegas and Los Angeles. You end up all over the place. You end up at the Alamo. It's the ultimate road trip. I would love to do that one day. I would really love to. When I retire one day, I don't even want the RV. I just want to take my sports car. I'll stay in hotels. It's whatever. I'm fine with spending the money. I really want to see all that stuff. I've been to Hawaii before, but we always went to Maui. I guess you can't go to Maui anymore. Have they rebuilt that thing yet? Don't know. But I want to go check out Pearl Harbor. That's somewhere I've never been. Mount Rushmore, never been there. Alamo, supremely disappointing. However, if you're looking for a fun getaway here in Washington, I can't believe I fell for this clickbait. From Seattle Refined, they said there's a castle in Washington you can stay at. And I said, that looks awesome. There's a castle in Washington? Let's go check out the castle. It's not really a castle. Okay, it looks like a castle. It looks like it's a cool experience. It's got this massive acreage and all this dragon-themed stuff. But the High Rock Castle was built in 1993 in Monroe, Washington. Okay, you build something in 1993 that's not a castle. If you say you took it out of, I don't know, you took it out of the bog. You took it out there, Loch Ness. You brought it over here. You did that and reassembled it in 1993. Sure. But you built a custom 3,200 square foot residential property in 1993. That is not a castle. Go to the Great Wolf Lodge. I'm not disparaging these people. They do a fine business. I would love to actually go there. I actually sent it to 3 or 4 friends when I saw it. I said, hey, you Game of Thrones nerds, this is for you. Go check this out. Just like they said for me, hey, look, there's a Star Trek hotel. You can stay in the Star Trek hotel, which isn't really a Star Trek hotel. But, I sent this to a bunch of friends. So I sent them a bunch of business. So if you like that kind of stuff, go check it out. But castle, I want to know that there's like those floors I'm going to walk on them. It'll be the dirt of the Vikings or whoever it was. I want Shakespeare to walk in those halls. I want Crusaders to walk in those. Not built in 1993. I mean, come on, guys.
There's
really?
no real castles here. I mean, let's just be honest. Even if they did build it out of stone or something, it'd still be like, that's not really.
If you bring it over piece by piece and reassemble
but
it,
even
then I'm
then,
like, okay, fine. Maybe. There's this one house next to some friends of mine on Lake Washington where it looks like a drug dealer lives there. And across the street, he was trying to build a forge. He was trying to build a forge. He was going to buy a house and turn it into a forge, and the neighbors went ballistic because there's smoke and everything coming from the forge all the time. But he was literally trying to build a forge in my neighborhood. I didn't really care. It's not on my block. I think it'd be kind of fun to go visit the forge. Maybe I can get a custom sword or a custom dagger. I don't know what I would do with it. It would hang on the wall like a lot of the other weird random stuff that you go, hey, that looks cool over there. Maybe I'll buy it for my house.
Is he trying to go on that stupid reality show where they have guys come on and build swords?
No, I think this guy just wanted to build swords.
Like a practice for this. Have you seen this, by the way?
I've heard of this. I have not seen it.
Yeah,
it's like a Ren Fair thing, right?
No, it's more like a competition, almost like Dancing with the Stars, but you build swords and they test and see how well they cut and hold up. Now you're looking at me like, wait a minute, I want to watch this.
Well, no. Not I want to watch this, but what are you intending to cut with said sword? Are we going human hunting or something, like in the most dangerous game?
He's trying to win.
That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow with more chances to win, more insane stories, and more exciting guests. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.